Hello, happy Monday, or whatever day you're listening to this. Welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast. I'm the Mum Boss, and my name's Chrissy. If you've never listened to me before, I hope you're good. Today, I'm talking about all of the things that I do to improve my self-confidence and self-belief. And you might be listening thinking, but hold on, Chrissy, you're the Mum Boss. I thought you had loads of confidence and loads of self-belief. And you know what? Most of the time I do, but sometimes because our brains are sneaky little buggers, I don't always have loads of confidence and loads of self-belief. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the past week. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. I have definitely felt quite a bit of overwhelm. I've definitely felt quite a lot of pressure, and I have definitely felt the onslaught of the perimenopause hormones in my life in the last week. Um, and honestly, I had a couple of days last week where I just felt super low, super sad, super anxious, and the negative thoughts and limiting beliefs were spiraling within my brain over and over and over again. And I would say that Wednesday was probably the worst day. Um, Luckily, I've got an amazing support network around me who can help me when I feel like this. But one thing you might resonate with is that sometimes when a little negative thought gets into your brain, it's a bit like a wormhole, and that worm just keeps going and going and burying itself deeper, and then the negative thoughts just spiral and spiral around that wormhole, and one grows arms and legs, and it all just turns into a big octopus of negativity. And that's how I felt for a lot of last week. And I just want to really emphasize that none of this was about my physical appearance. I understand that, I'm a weight loss coach, and a lot of people come to me because they want help losing weight and getting fitter and stronger. But so much of the work that I do is around mindset, and nothing that I was thinking about last week was about my body or my fat loss journey or my fitness journey. But it was absolutely all consuming. My overall self-perception of myself for those couple of days was really low. And like I said, I think a lot of this has to do with menopause hormones and how I've been feeling recently, kind of battling some of my symptoms. Um, But I thought it would be really useful to share with you some of the tools and techniques that I'm using at the minute to really help me with this. And before I talk about those, I think I've got five. Have I got five? I've written notes. Yeah, I've got five things that I want to share with you. Um, Before I talk about what those five are, I just kind of want to explain to you what the negative thoughts and limiting beliefs I'm talking about are. Not specifically what my ones are, because that's not going to be helpful to you. But limiting beliefs are beliefs that we hold that prevent us from doing things. And often those beliefs are misaligned with how real life is, with how things really are. And those limiting beliefs hold us back from doing things, as I say. So, for example, you might say, oh, Henry's having some kind of episode on the sofa, scratching his back. You might say that you can't cook, you're just no good at cooking. That's a limiting belief. Bless you, Henry. Um, you might say you can't cook, or you might say, one of the limiting beliefs that I hold about myself, here we go, raw, honest, is that, I never believed I would be a business owner because I held the belief that I wasn't clever enough for that. I didn't go to university. I didn't even stay on at school for A levels. I dropped out of college because I hated the course. And I often told myself I wasn't clever enough to be a business owner. And what that then can lead to is me not sharing, a piece of knowledge that I have, or a thought that I have, or a belief that I have, in case someone questions my my knowledge. It leads to a lot of imposter syndrome, basically, and leads to me to maybe not sharing quite as much as I should do, in case someone questions how good I am at my job. That's a limiting belief. And often those limiting beliefs create negative thoughts where you question yourself, or you overthink things, and you often perceive something as being true that isn't. Okay, so we like to see our negative beliefs as the pajamas that we used to wear when we were a child. They wouldn't fit us now. And that's often because negative beliefs are created when we are younger, and by something that happens, and that forms a belief. But that belief is created by our 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old self, and actually as a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old woman, that's not relevant to right now. And what happens is, once we start to listen to these negative thoughts and self-limiting beliefs, we can create this cycle of self-doubt, and that can impact our mental well-being. And that was the position that I found myself in last week. And it really wasn't very pleasant. And it can, what can happen, that negative self-talk, when we're telling ourselves these unkind things, or things that aren't true, that can really damage your self-esteem and damage your decision making. And that was something I really struggled with last week, was decision making. Even just like, oh, should I cook this for dinner like I'd planned, or should I cook this for dinner that was meant to be for tomorrow, but maybe actually it would be better for tonight? Like, the decision making just wasn't there. It was crazy. So we can be really unkind to ourselves. We can say some really harsh things to ourselves. And the problem is, once we get into that hole, it's really difficult to see that we're in a hole, because we just start believing everything our head tells us. So I wanted to tell you about 5 of the things. There are lots of things that I do. Obviously, I keep myself fit, I keep myself strong, I try and get outside every day, I eat good food. But here are 5 things that I'm implementing religiously every day at the moment, just to help me with this little negative thought pattern that's going on. So number 1, and actually number 1 and number 2 are really really linked. So number 1 is journaling. And journaling really helps to process emotions and clarify your thoughts. And I keep a journal right behind me, on a little shelf, because every morning I have a little habit of coming down, I make myself a hot drink, and I sit and I journal. And I used to just use journaling as a bit of a diary. Oh, yesterday I did this and this and this. But now I much more think of it and utilize it like, a way of emptying my head of all the thoughts and beliefs and things that are in there, and really trying to clarify how I think. This doesn't have to be written on a book. It can be typed into your phone. Sometimes I just, if I'm out and about, walking with the dog, I can't take a journal with me. But if I think something and I think, oh, I'm not going to remember that when I get back, I'll voice note myself. Sometimes I voice note my friends or my husband, and that really helps. But it's a way of emptying and processing my emotions and emptying my head of the thoughts. And something that always is part of that journaling is gratitude. So every day I write down 3 things that I am super grateful for. And what that helps me to do is shift the focus from negative to positive aspects of life. And even if, the thing that I'm grateful for that morning is my cup of coffee, it doesn't matter how big or small they are. And research has shown, a study published in Psychological Science found that like your expressive journaling and writing can improve your mental health. And that is why journaling is something that is so widely talked about at the moment. I'm going to tell you what number 2 is, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about why people often avoid these things because they think they're doing it. I'm going to just tell you why, because they think they're doing it wrong. I'll come back to that. So that's number 1, is journaling. And if you don't know where to start with journaling, just start with writing down some things that you're grateful for every day. Number 2 is meditation. And this is something that is really new to me. I started meditating every day at the beginning of March, just for 10 minutes a day. And meditation promotes mindfulness and reduces anxiety. And let me tell you how that happens. So often when we're anxious, anxiety is about projecting what is going to happen in the future. And it's often linked to uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. So we start worrying about all the different outcomes of something. And the anxiety that I was feeling was then leading to quite a big feeling of panic last week. And so the reason that meditating helps within that big moment of panic, that big moment of stress, is it brings me to the present moment. It brings me right into the right now. So I stop being the Chrissy that is envisaging 10 different possibilities of what might happen in the future, and it brings me to right now. And it helps me to challenge negative thoughts as they arrive. Now, the thing with journaling and meditation is people say, oh, I never know if I'm doing it right. And this is the thing, there's no rules. There's no rules about what's right or wrong. I said to you, when I started journaling, I just used to use it as a diary. Oh, yesterday I did this and I did that. And now I use it much more as a reflective way of disentangling my or untangling, should I say, my thoughts and feelings. People think that with meditating, you need to be able to sit there with this empty mind and not think any thoughts, and that's not true. Your thoughts will wander, and often in meditating practices, what you're taught is to bring it back to the breath. Now, I've downloaded the Calm app. Other apps are available. But what I've been using for the last week is I'm meditating for 10 minutes every morning. And then when I can start to feel myself getting a little bit overwhelmed or maybe a little bit panicked, I'm just using, they've got like 1 or 2 minute meditations there that which just help you breathe and bring you into the present moment. And that's been really super helpful. So meditation as well is something that I really, really recommend that you do. Number 3, affirmations. So again, this might sound a bit airy-fairy and a bit woo-woo, but I started this chat talking to you about how, your negative self-talk and your limiting beliefs can really form quite a strong conversation within your head. So what better way to combat that than to talking to yourself with positive affirmations, and that can then rewire those negative thought patterns. This can really help us to develop resilience and to develop self-worth as well. Now I'm going to have to go to my journal now because I can't remember how many I've got. How many have I got at the moment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9. Oh, that's uneven. We need to put a 10th in there. Can't have an odd number. But like, for example, my first affirmation that I say out loud to myself every day is, I am the mum boss. There's actually a swear word in there, but I'm not going to say that. I say things like, today will be amazing and incredible things will happen. I'm deciding to bring the energy today. I trust myself to navigate whatever challenges come my way because I am a woman who can do that. I'm not going to read all of them. Here's the thing. Last week, I noticed that I didn't say those affirmations on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And my worst 2 days were Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, again, there's been more research into affirmations and showing that they can buffer against the effects of stress and improved self-identity and improved mood. So no, you don't have to have a list of 10 affirmations. It could be 3 things that you want to say to yourself every day. But it's really been helping me. You don't have to do it, but affirmations really super helpful for me. Number 4, finding evidence that proves me wrong. So this is a way that I physically challenge my negative self-beliefs. And that's about gathering evidence of my successes and my strengths. Now, most recently, because I felt quite overwhelmed, I felt like there's quite a lot that I need to do and a lot of pressure on me. My negative self-talk has been about how I can't get everything done that people expect of me. And that includes things like the washing, the cooking, the shopping, like all of those things within the house. I'm also involved in an event at the moment, which I've had quite a big part to play in, and I've felt quite under quite a lot of pressure from that. And trying to explain to some of the people are involved in the event that I'm feeling that pressure and that I need a little break has been quite challenging. But there's a lot to do with that event. So one of the things that I've been using in terms of evidence is I plan my days, but I also try to time block my days, but there's also always the little things that we do outside of our plan of the day, like the little things that we kind of don't count. So I write down now on my planner what I've done all day. So the first thing I did when I sat down at my desk today was write some content. Let's not forget the live workout I did at 7 a.m. Then I did my client check-ins. Then I did a training session. I was on a training session for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes longer than it was meant to be. I had lunch. And then I went and visited 2 halls for hire for expanding the Last Diet Club local. So obviously I had driving to do in between that. I popped into a shop, I bought myself some strawberries and I bought Charlie a cookie. And now I'm recording the podcast. So actually, whilst on my to-do list, I've got client check-ins, I've got record the podcast, and I've got prep for my calls, I've actually done a whole load of other things as well as that. So writing down every day what I'm achieving has been really helping me. But there's other things as well. So, in my client groups, in my client WhatsApps, in my client messages, in the check-ins, there's wins that my lovely ladies share with me all the time. And I keep those wins in a folder because you know what? I facilitated those wins. They might have achieved them, but I facilitated those. When someone sends me a really sweet message, someone sent me a message yesterday. I'm going to try and say this without crying. I'm going to read it out. I'm going to read it out because I'm allowed. And it's just affirming to me. Happy Mother's Day to you. You are a great mum and a fantastic inspiration. How sweet is that? That's so nice. Like, that's not something I'm gonna, take a screenshot of and show it on my social media, but how lovely that someone sent that to me. So what we're doing here is we're restructuring our cognitive thoughts by finding evidence that proves the negative self-talk wrong. Okay, and you might do this, in terms of some of the things that I see with my clients. Oh, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I feel like I'm not making progress. And that might be because they compared their results this week to their results last week, when actually what they need to do is look over the last 3 months and see that they've made loads of progress in 3 months. It's just that maybe, this week they didn't see a drop on the scales or a drop in centimetres, or they only saw a half a centimetre or half a pound. But building up that bank of evidence is really important. Okay, and then number 5, step 5 on my rewiring of my negative self-beliefs and my self-confidence and self-talk and self-esteem and whatever it is I'm going to call this podcast, is about taking action on procrastination. So one of the things that I notice about myself is when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling anxious, when I'm feeling stressed, I procrastinate. So I will maybe go and do a wash load, right? Or I will decide all of a sudden that a shelf needs organising, or I'll scroll social media. Here, actually, I'm not helping myself. So what I've made sure I've done is every day I have taken an action towards the things I'm trying to achieve. So today, I've been out and I've viewed 2 venues for expanding the Last Diet Club local, and I've then come home and I've booked those venues, and part of me is saying, oh no, don't book them, because what if no one's going to come, or what if it doesn't work? No, I've booked them. I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. Right. So I'm taking small steps towards my goals to build what we call self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is where you start to take actions that help you to trust yourself. Okay, and this is really important if you're one of those people that keeps breaking promises to yourself. You need to build more self-efficacy, and this is about taking the small steps that help you to build that and build that trust in yourself and keep those promises to yourself. And then by taking those actions, no matter how small, and don't forget, I'm writing down the actions in my little journal here, that's giving me a feeling of accomplishment and self-worth. So it's feeding into all of the other things. Okay. And again, research shows us that taking small, consistent actions can lead to greater confidence, greater motivation. So the fact that I've booked 2 venues today means, great, well, I better get on with a marketing plan for Last Diet Club local then, hadn't I? I can't procrastinate on it anymore, because otherwise I'm going to have spent money on hiring these halls and no one's going to turn up because no one's going to know about it. You see how that works? So they're the 5 things that I've been doing. Just to recap those, I've got journaling, I've got meditation, I've got affirmations, I've got finding evidence that proves me wrong, I've got taking action on my procrastination. Now, these don't replace the fact that I'm exercising, the fact that I'm eating well, the fact that I'm getting my steps in, that I've been out in the beautiful sunshine today, and I'm going to go again this evening. These don't replace those. These are just some other things that I'm doing, and you don't have to do all of them. Some of them really might not be for you. But building self-confidence is a journey, and it's okay to have tough days. And the thing is that when you're working on your health, on your fitness, on your fat loss, you're also building your self-confidence, because you are taking actions that improve you every day. You are building trust in yourself every day. You are making promises and keeping them to yourself, keeping them every day. You are, by utilizing some of these tools, you are developing yourself. I was having a conversation with one of my clients today who has also had a really, really difficult week, and she found herself returning to her old familiar habits of overeating and binging. In fact, I had this conversation with a couple of them, where they've found themselves, in stressful situations, and they've returned to their old habits and old behaviors. And what I want you to remember is, That's not because you're broken. That's not because the work you're doing is not working. It's because that's where your brain sees you as comfortable and safe. It sees your choice of food or drink as comfortable and safe. And actually, doing some of these other things to help you get through the situation are much, much harder. They're much, much harder. So you can work through these difficult times. You can work through these triggers. You might not be able to solve them. And that's really important to accept, that you might not have the answer to solve all of these things, but you can work through them. And in the moment, you can help yourself to feel better. So I really hope that you have found this useful, and that me sharing, the ins and outs of what's been going on for me is helpful for you. If you would like to know more about how you can work with me, check the links in the show notes. Please do subscribe to this podcast. And if you think this will help someone else who's been experiencing some stress, some anxiety, or is going through going on a health journey and just finding it really, really challenging, please do share this with them. Have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you soon.